A bit of an unexpected treat here. A guy I've been, I don't know, following since I was probably, 10 years old.
Don't date me.
You know what? You look pretty damn good, Laird. Laird Hamilton. For those of you who've been living under a rock for the past 20 years, the guy that invented tow-in surfing and countless other things, and partially responsible for surfing becoming a part of the culture of the world, I think. Would you agree with that, Laird?
I
don't mean don't toot your own horn.
Anytime anybody wants to blame me for having fun, I'll take the credit.
Good enough. You look like you're having fun here, but you're doing something new. You hit the scene, the sailing scene, a couple months back when Juan Cuyamjin and Puma announced this new Puma Laird stand-up paddleboard.
Yes.
And SUP's taken over sort of the world as well a little bit here. The thing looks gorgeous. We'll talk about it in a second, but my real question for you is, have you done much sailing in your life?
Yeah, I have actually. I haven't done a lot on big boats because I was never well funded. But I broke a couple European speed records when I first started windsurfing, and did the speed thing for a long time. And then I was involved in the kind of the beginning of kite surfing. I was one of the guys involved in that kind of started that whole sport. So I've been involved in that aspect. I mean, I've done some Hobie Cat sailing, and
Sure.
I've been on a couple big sailboats before, but nothing like what they're going to do here. And most of my stuff was, like I said, windsurfing, kiting, that kind of stuff.
Interesting. I don't know if you've seen them, out of the water like there, but these boats are essentially giant surfboards, right?
Oh, they are. And it's funny to see, in a way, when you look at the design, they come more and more towards what we've been riding for years, and rightfully so. They have to, because they're surfing. So at the end of the day, that's what they're going to try to do.
They're on top of the water, just like you are.
That's right.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Holes.
I've heard that you haven't gone out on a 70 yet, but tomorrow you're going to be out for the start aboard Puma, right?
I will be out on the start. I was actually trying to go to their training in the Canaries, and I broke my foot right during that time, and I thought probably not the best time to get on a 70 in 35 knots of wind in the Canaries with a broken foot.
Yeah, well, I think tomorrow, and just so you know, I will be on a competing boat jumping off as well, so we'll get to wave, but yours is probably faster. But you should see 20 plus knots before you jump off.
Sure, I'm looking forward to that. I have a couple personal challenges with Kenny, so we're going to put that to the test at some point throughout this next year.
Kenny's a bit of a betting man, I know.
Oh, yeah, him and I got one going right now.
Want to share it?
I'll let you know after if I win or not.
Fair enough. Let's talk about something that kind of interests me. You're never a competitor per se. You were never a guy that wanted to go do heat racing and in anything, and you were always out about the adventure, the pioneering spirit. These guys, while they're obviously racing against each other, there's a lot of adventure and pioneering in this kind of racing. What other sort of parallels do you see between what you do and the other big wave pioneers and what these guys are off doing around the world?
Well, I think that even though they're racing against each other, there's a certain camaraderie that you have to have. I think they're going to be out in the middle of a big ocean, and I think it's about that camaraderie. I mean, you want to beat the other guy, but at the end, it's still about participating with them in the experience and looking out for each other, even though you want to beat them. And the parallels of just the relationship with the ocean and the risk that you're going to take and the mindset that it takes to take on a challenge that involves something like the sea that is far more powerful than any of us will ever be is I think those are the things that we have in common, is that type of mindset. And then you're riding a surfboard, so you're having to deal with some equipment and some stuff that is not always in your control.
Yeah. I think in your role as a media pioneer as well in surfing, and I don't know how much of that was you and how much of it was your friends and you guys that held the cameras and did the editing, but certainly it was always in your mind. You saw the sport of surfing become something that not only was commercially viable around the world, but in the minds of kids, in the minds of pop culture, in the minds of music. Sailing has a big struggle in America, especially, where nobody really knows about it. It's a very small sport in the scheme of things, but people are making efforts, the new America's Cup and the catamarans and so on, they're making an effort. Is there any advice you can give this sport, how to juice it up, how to sex it up, how to make it something that more kids want to do, that gets into the culture of the country?
Well, they have the same problem that we have and have had and continue to have, is that when you're doing things that are offshore and out of sight, we don't have a stadium, we can't do it on Friday night, you can't expect 35 knots of wind to blow on Sunday at noon, and so in a way capturing it effectively and really bringing people the sensation of doing it through filming it correctly and then creating situations where people can actually get on a boat and experience the sensation, and something as simple as stand-up paddling can help people appreciate what a sailboat's doing as well. So, getting people involved in activities that are in the water help people appreciate other activities in the water. So it's a combination of all of those things, participating, trying it, and then also capturing it in a way that people can really experience what what it's like.
Right. Advice from the masters, video editors. Let's talk about the board for a second. The Puma Laird stand-up paddleboard. It's trick looking. It's great. What makes it different from the other paddleboards on the market and right now?
Well, being able to implement Juan K's design into that board. That board probably, right off the shelf is 10% faster than most 20% faster than most every board out there, and then maybe 5 or 10% faster than a lot of the fastest boards out there. And it's I describe it as a road bike. It's designed to, it has a surface penetrating bow. It's got some other features to it that I don't want to give away, but that really make it something unique and different. And I think it's just one of the first type of its generation that will be the future of that particular discipline of stand-up. Stand-up has a lot of variety. So guys are going off waterfalls and rivers, and we're riding giant waves, and then we're doing channel crossings, and so that board really represents the future of racing, because stand-up paddle racing is really popular, and I think that aspect is something that everybody can do, and all you need is water and a paddle and a board. And so I think that's will be interesting to see where it goes. The growth rate right now is about 100% a year.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's worldwide.
Kind of reminds me of the windsurfer days, the early days.
Yeah, except the only difference between that and windsurfing is that windsurfing is a lot harder. At the end of the day, windsurfing is, and you need a sail, you need more equipment, it's harder, you need the right conditions. This thing is just...
No obstacles to entry.
No obstacles.
Just the price tag, which isn't, you can pick your price tag.
That's right. That's right. And if you get good, you can get fancy. I tell people, hey, listen, you can buy a $300 bicycle or you can buy a $13,000 bicycle. Yeah. I go, that's what stand-up paddle is. You can buy a $300 stand-up paddle board, or you can buy a $10,000 stand-up paddle board. It's just what you want from it and where you're at.
How many iterations of this design did you have to go to before you had something you were happy with?
Well, the first one was right already. We could have come out with the first one and just gone with that. I think we did 2 or 3 changes, but I felt like it was already good enough that we weren't trying to make like this the fastest board ever made, because no one could paddle it.
Right.
So 3 guys could paddle it, and that'd be great for me and a couple of buddies. But we tried to make something that was super fast but still tangible for people, and and Juan's designing, and the design that they put into the boat was such that we didn't really need to do anything to it. Let's just make a miniature boat and we'll paddle that, and it should be great. And that was what happened.
Yeah. We and this will be the last question. Juan's got a reputation as being a genius, a brilliant guy who is an absolute pain in the ass to work with. Did you find that?
I didn't. I just think, like any genius, I think that it has to do with, they have a lot on their mind. when you're a genius, your brain's full and you don't have time for normal kind of communication skills that are for you aren't important, because you're too busy thinking about the important stuff, and that's why you're good at what you do. And I've dealt with enough designers in my career that I wasn't offended by anything that maybe could have offended somebody else. For me, I was just like, oh yeah, great, no problem. I could understand them. And I think that a lot of times designers have a tendency to people have a tendency to try to tell them what to do, and I think that's the first mistake you can do. It's like you go to a designer that's like Juan K, and you say, hey, make me this, and then that's where you leave it, and then you don't try to tell them how to make it. And I think that's where they have low tolerance.
Fair enough. Good answers from the master, the Zen master of surfing, Laird Hamilton. I can't tell you how tickled I am to meet you, man.
Well, I appreciate it.
And I can't tell you how much we need your help to promote sailing in America. If you get a chance to get bitten by one of these things and get into a little bit, we'd love to have you on any of the boats, man.
I already know. I was bitten as soon as I saw it. I got to go into the factory when they were still building it, so I've got to see it go through the process and the technology and everything. I mean, it's just, I wish my surfboards were that fancy.
Great to have you here, man.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
cheers.
it.
Could you stand by for one quick picture?